The lawyer slid a single sealed envelope across the table, and my aunt said the word thief so loudly that the receptionist 2 rooms away stopped typing. She was pointing at me when she said it. My name is Della. I'm 34, and I had driven 90 minutes through black ice to sit in that conference room and be called a criminal by people who had buried my grandmother only 9 days earlier. My uncle nodded along. My cousin filmed it on her phone, angled low like she was catching evidence. And I just sat there, hands folded, saying nothing. Here's what none of them knew. In the last 3 months of her life, my grandmother had been quietly recording something, not a confession, not a deathbed apology, a Times case, from a hospital recliner, with a tablet I'd taught her to use and a notebook she hid inside a cookbook. She'd been building the kind of proof that doesn't shout, it just waits. And what was inside that sealed envelope was about to make every person in that room wish they had stayed home. I never saw it coming either. Let me back up, because you need to understand how I ended up the family villain. My mother left when I was 9. Not died, left. Drove to Phoenix with a man named Curtis, and sent a birthday card the following March that said, "Be good for Gran." So my grandmother, Ruth Halloran, 63 at the time, took me into her little yellow house on Birch Street in Ellisburg, Ohio, and raised me like it was the most ordinary thing in the world. She wasn't soft. She was steady. Every morning she made oatmeal with 1 spoon of brown sugar. Never 2. You'll thank me at 50. And every night she checked that the back door was locked twice. She taught me to balance a checkbook before I could drive. When I cried about being the kid with no parents at the school play, she said, "Della, you've got me, and I show up. That's worth more than a crowd." She was right. She always showed up. I put myself through community college, then a state nursing program, working overnight shifts at a care facility. I became a registered nurse. I moved across town, 20 minutes away, close enough to bring her groceries, far enough to have my own life. And every Sunday, without fail, I came back to the Yellow House, and we watched her game shows, and I refilled her pill organizer for the week. The rest of the family loved Grandma differently. They loved her the way you love a savings account. My Uncle Dale was her son, 55, loud, a contractor who was always between big jobs. His wife, my Aunt Patrice, ran the family like a committee she'd appointed herself chair of. And their daughter, my cousin Jenna, 31, treated the world like a backdrop for photos she'd post by sundown. They came to Grandma's house twice a year, Christmas and whenever a check might be involved. They called me the help once at Thanksgiving. Patrice laughed. Dale didn't correct her. Jenna didn't look up from her phone, but I had no idea how bad it was about to get. It started with the spoons. Grandma had a set of silver serving spoons her own mother brought over from Ireland, 6 of them, kept in a felt-lined drawer she opened maybe once a year. In April, she called me sounding small. "Della, the spoons are gone. All but 2. I drove over. We searched the kitchen, the dining hutch, the boxes in the spare room. Nothing. I told her maybe she'd lent them out and forgotten. She agreed too quickly, the way people do when they're scared of what the truth might be. Then it was the cash. She kept emergency money in a coffee tin. Rainy day, not a habit. $200, gone. Then her late husband's pocket watch, the one with the train engraved on the back, vanished from the nightstand where it had sat since 1994. Each time, my Aunt Patrice had a theory, and the theory was always shaped like me. I overheard it myself one Sunday. I was in the pantry getting flour, and Patrice was in the kitchen with Grandma, voice lowered into that fake gentle register. "Ruth, I'm only saying it because I love you. Who's here the most? Who has a key? You have to be practical about who you trust." "Della has never taken a thing in her life," Grandma said. "That's what makes it so easy," Patrice answered. "Sweet ones are the ones you don't watch." I stood in that pantry with a bag of flour in my hand, and my whole chest gone cold. They weren't guessing, they were building something. A story, brick by brick, with me cemented at the bottom of it. That night I made a decision that would change everything. I didn't accuse anyone. I didn't even tell Grandma what I'd heard. Instead, I called the security company and ordered 3 small cameras for her house, and I made very sure I set them up the right way. In June, Grandma's heart started to fail. The doctor used the word congestive, and the world got smaller after that. She stopped going to church. She stopped walking to the mailbox. By August, she lived mostly in the recliner by the window, wrapped in the gray cardigan I'd given her, watching the birds at the feeder I refilled every visit. I installed the cameras the week she came home from her first hospital stay. 2 inside, 1 at the door. I built the cloud account under her name, her email, a password she chose, then I deliberately removed my own access. I'm a nurse. I think about privacy the way some people think about money. I told her it was her home and her footage, hers to share with whoever she wanted, never mine to spy with. She laughed her dry little laugh. Who am I going to show? The Cardinals. The little blue light on the living room camera blinked twice when it powered up. She pointed at it. Feels like somebody's keeping watch. I told her that was the whole idea. What I couldn't have known was that the somebody keeping watch would turn out to be her. The dark part came in September. I overheard Dale on the phone in the driveway, not knowing I was sitting in my car finishing a work call. If the old lady's place sells, I clear the debt. I just need her to go. Don't say it like that, Patrice. I didn't mean it like that. I sat frozen with my phone against my ear and a stranger's voice in my own dashboard. I drove home that night and didn't turn on a single light. I sat on the kitchen floor and cried the way you cry when you realize the people who are supposed to be your family are counting the days until someone you love is gone. And then I had the realization that quieted everything. No one was coming to save me, or her. I had to do it myself. So I stopped reacting, and I started watching, the way Grandma taught me to lock that back door twice. I couldn't see the footage. I'd built myself out of it on purpose. But Grandma could. So on a Sunday in October, I sat beside her recliner and showed her, slowly, patiently, how to log into the account on her tablet. I drew the steps on the back of a grocery receipt. She squinted and grumbled and called the tablet the slate, but she learned. She always learned. Why would I want to watch my own living room? She asked. You don't have to, I said, but it's yours if you ever do. I didn't push it. I thought that was the end of it. What I didn't know, what I'd only learn months later, was that Ruth Halloran started watching that footage every single night after I left. Quietly, methodically. A woman in a recliner with a tablet and a notebook tucked inside her old cookbook, writing down dates and times in her shaky cursive. She watched who came in when the lights were off. She watched the felt drawer open. She watched a coffee tin get lighter. And in November, 3 weeks before she died, she had her attorney come to the house. Not Dale's lawyer, her own. A man named Gerald Okafor she'd used for 30 years. She showed him the notebook. She showed him the footage. She had him draw something up. She told no one, not even me. They had no idea what was coming. Grandma died on a Tuesday in December. I held her hand. It was cold, and I held it anyway. The will reading was 9 days later, in Gerald Okafor's office downtown. Polished wood, a long table, the smell of coffee, and old paper. Dale wore a suit that didn't button. Patrice wore black like she was the widow. Jenna came late with a latte, and her phone already up. And before Mr. Okafor could read a single line, my aunt did exactly what she'd been rehearsing for months. Before we start, Patrice announced, standing, sliding a typed list across the table. The family needs it on the record that items have gone missing from Ruth's home. Jewelry, cash, heirlooms, and we all know who had a key and who was there alone. week after week. She didn't say my name. She pointed. She was practically living there, Jenna added, filming. Let's be honest about who we're dealing with. Dale folded his arms. Nobody's accusing anybody, but Della had the access. The timeline fits. She shouldn't see a dime until this is sorted. Every head in that room turned to me. And I want you to remember, I still didn't know what Grandma had done. I sat with my hands folded and said nothing. Because when a room has already decided you're guilty, defending yourself just makes you sound desperate. Mr. Okafor let the silence sit. Then he took off his glasses, cleaned them slowly, and said, Mrs. Halloran anticipated this exact moment. The room went completely silent. He reached into a manila envelope sealed with wax and pulled out 3 things, laying each on the table like a man laying out evidence, because that's what he was doing. A typed letter, a flash drive, and a pawn shop receipt. Your mother amended her will 11 days before she passed, he said. She left instructions that this be presented, in full, to everyone in this room. She also passed a cognitive evaluation 72 hours before signing. I'll save you the trouble of asking. He turned his laptop to face us, plugged in the drive, and pressed play. The first clip, November 3rd, 1:14 a.m. The front door opening in the dark. Dale walking in without turning on a light, going straight to the bedroom, sliding open the nightstand drawer, and pocketing the engraved pocket watch. The second clip, a bright afternoon. Grandma asleep in the recliner. Jenna walking in with an empty tote bag, opening the felt drawer, lifting out the silver spoons one by one, and dropping them in. She left without looking at her sleeping grandmother once. The third clip, Patrice at the front door, glancing left and right, then waving Dale inside. Nobody breathed. It wasn't the silence of shock. It was the silence of recognition, of watching something you cannot unsee and cannot deny. That's edited, Jenna said. Too fast, too high. Tell them it's fake, Dad. Dale said nothing. His face had gone the color of wet cement. Those cameras are illegal, Patrice tried. They are a homeowner's security system, in her own home, recording people who entered voluntarily, Mr. Okafor said evenly. Ohio law required no one's consent but hers. She understood that perfectly. Then he picked up the letter and read it. Grandma's words, in his steady voice. To my family, I noticed. I always notice. Della set up those cameras to keep me safe. She didn't know I'd use them to keep the truth safe. I leave everything to the one who came when no one was watching. The pawn receipt was last. A silver Irish serving set and a man's pocket watch, sold for cash. The name on the receipt was Dale Halloran. I didn't stand. I didn't point. I didn't say a word. The truth had already spoken, and it didn't need my help. The will left me the yellow house on Birch Street, her accounts, and every spoon they could recover from the pawn shop. It gave Dale a choice. Sign a restitution agreement for $41,000, or face a civil claim with the footage attached. He signed. He sold his truck within the month. I didn't press criminal charges, not because they didn't earn them, but because Grandma's letter ended with a line I couldn't time. I don't want your last memory of this family to be a courtroom. I want it to be the soup. I live in the yellow house now. I make the oatmeal with 1 spoon of brown sugar. The silver serving set is back in its felt drawer, and the pocket watch with the little engraved train sits on the nightstand where it belongs. Dale hasn't called. Patrice mailed a Christmas card with no apology in it. I recycled it. Jenna's account went private the day after the reading. Last week I climbed up and turned off the living room camera. The blue light went dark for the first time in months. I didn't need it anymore. Neither did she. She never raised her voice once in her whole life. She just made sure that, in the end, the truth got the last word. So if someone shows up for you when no one's watching, tell them now. Don't wait for a sealed envelope to say it for you.